12 subtle signs of low self-esteem in a man. Some men come off as so assured and endearing that it's simple to ignore the telltale signals of uneasiness and poor self-worth. Yet some of the worst cases of low self-esteem I've encountered have been among the kind of men who seem to have it all: good looks, charisma, and an easy way of connecting with others. Too often, we blame this unhealthy and self-sabotaging mindset on men who are unsuccessful in life. Guys can occasionally feel a little self-conscious, but guys with poor self-esteem can become paralyzed by this emotion. There are subtle symptoms that can assist you to determine whether your partner has low self-esteem if you have been unsure. And if you're worried, take action right away to solve the issues jointly, or if necessary, make the decision to move on. Discover the traits of guys who lack self-confidence and learn how to make them feel better about themselves. We could be unaware that no amount of charm or beauty can make up for low self-worth. Instead, it simmers below the surface and manifests itself in ways that we might not even be aware of. When the basic fact is that he doesn't feel deserving of affection, we may mistakenly attribute these traits to selfishness, possessiveness, or even imposter syndrome. His poor self-worth is reinforced by the way his sense of unworthiness frequently ruins his relationships. Here are a few indicators of a man's low self-esteem. Number 1, he turns himself into the joke's punchline. He may be amusing in his ability to make fun of himself, but is it really charming when someone does that? Or is it just an indication of low self-esteem? His self-depreciating humor may be a way for a man who doesn't feel deserving of love and belonging to express his vulnerabilities. Take note of the jokes he tells about himself. He may be concerned about his size and how others view it if he makes too many jokes about being overweight. He may feel insecure about his knowledge, experience, or even schooling if too many jokes are made about it. Number 2, he places more emphasis on his failures than his successes. Even when he completes a task successfully, he prefers to sit down and analyze his faults, regardless of whether they were actually made or not. He can focus on getting a prize while also not winning the big prize. It may be an indication of poor self-esteem if he never seems to fully credit himself for his accomplishments. Number 3, he requires continuous validation. Despite having a successful appearance, he appears to constantly seek approval from others in his life, especially his lovers. It goes beyond praises. He frequently wants confirmation that he's doing a good job, and if it isn't given, he will ask directly. Although it can be exhausting to feel as though we must continually affirm them, poor self-esteem is accompanied with the worry that they will never be good enough. A man who lacks self-worth and confidence will probably want more assistance. Without it, he will be more likely to assume that we don't value his accomplishments and that we think he's a failure. His inner voice starts to affect the people around him. Number 4, he has a hard time accepting criticism that is positive. We might discover that we avoid arguing with his partner. They appear to have trouble receiving criticism of any kind, regardless of how well it is expressed. It can seem easier to avoid conflict altogether because of their strong emotions to it. Denial or rage isn't the only response to this problem. Sometimes it manifests as defensiveness, rerouting, or even assigning blame to the person who brought up the issue with him. The level of insecurity is so high that even the smallest criticism can backfire. However, avoiding conflict will also ruin your relationships. Number 5, he often feels jealous. Men with poor self-esteem frequently exhibit possessive and jealous behaviors. These characteristics don't always manifest themselves towards their partners. This envy occasionally manifests itself in how they perceive other people, including other guys, workmates, and family members. Since they continually compare themselves to others and suffer from poor self-esteem, they frequently feel inadequate and develop jealousy. Number 6, he is fiercely competitive. With poor self-esteem, there are other issues to be concerned about besides envy. Men who are insecure tend to be fierce competitors. They not only detest losing, but they also frequently suffer from sore winners as well. They are up against more than simply their best selves when they compete. In competition with everyone, that propensity to always compare oneself to others might manifest itself in persistent competition at work, at home, and in interpersonal relationships. Number 7, when he's struggling, he struggles to support you. Someone who is insecure, envious, and competitive can find it difficult to celebrate our victories while they're struggling. Thus, it may not come as a surprise. In reality, people frequently perceive our successes as a diversion from their own difficulties. It is possible to see our own struggles from the opposite angle, as if we were competing with their suffering rather than going through our own. The lack of assistance is frequently unintentional and unconscious. Their low self-esteem permeates all of their thoughts. It can be difficult for them to focus their energy on encouraging, praising, and celebrating even the people they love the most, since they may spend so much time feeling inadequate. Number 8. He dislikes other people. Men who are uneasy or have low self-esteem don't merely point the finger at themselves. They have a tendency to be quick to criticize others and spread rumors. They can even take pleasure in other people's problems since they place such a high value on performance in comparison. Despite how cruel it may sound, it's crucial to understand that this conduct originates from a wounded place. It's typically automatic and could even make them feel ashamed or embarrassed. They may aspire to be better than that, but in the end, their worldview is impacted by their innate sense of unworthiness, unlovability, and insufficiency. Number 9. Instead of trusting his own judgment, he frequently seeks out second opinions. Seeking outside advice rather than having confidence in one's own judgment is a telltale symptom of poor self-esteem among men. They continuously seek outside validation of their beliefs and choices from professionals, friends, and other people. It makes it difficult for them to make decisions. Someone who doesn't think they're good enough would inherently assume that another person's judgment matters more than their own. Self-doubt is a normal emotion. Overanalyzing any judgments they make is also bad. Their prior experiences may seem to confirm their lack of self-trust, which is a common in low self-esteem sufferers who destroy relationships. Failed relationships are not seen by them as teaching opportunities, but rather as proof that they're not and never have been worthwhile. Number 10. He obsesses over perfection and appearances. Men with poor self-esteem put a lot of emphasis on their appearance. If we pay attention, we can see that they portray themselves in a carefully managed way online, dress a specific way, and carry themselves a certain way at work. They excel at showing just the positive aspects of their lives while concealing the ones where they feel failure or humiliation. They place a lot of emphasis on appearance and seek perfection in others as well as themselves. As a result, they could start pointing out the shortcomings of those around them in order to feel better about their own. For their partners, this can be especially challenging. Number 11. He sees life in a negative light. The insecure man tends to assume the worst because his own sentiments of poor self-worth color his perspective. His worldview, presumptions, and attitudes are typically pessimistic. He is examining the skies for storm clouds instead of seeking for silver linings because he is confident that if he searches long enough, he will find them. Of course he does. After all, self-fulfilling prophecies frequently take this form. Number 12. He seems self-centered and has an uninterested listening style. He struggles to put himself in another person's shoes. He finds it challenging to picture himself in anyone else's position. He's a poser who will not put on a mask to appear certain. When he doesn't feel confident, he passionately attempts to appear so. When you speak to him, he might pay close attention and exhibit an eagerness to understand. He might reiterate what you say to demonstrate attention. He appears receptive to suggestions and new experiences. Yet he's too insecure to ask for assistance. Although he may berate others and consider them incompetent, these are only attempting to divert attention from how he feels about himself. Trauma, mental illness, as well as expectations from the workplace and society can all contribute to low self-esteem. It is best to speak to your friend with words of love and encouragement if you observe any signs of low self-esteem in him. In order to improve his self-esteem, a man must first acknowledge that it is low. Then he needs to focus on self-acceptance and make any necessary improvements. With this, we end our video. If you like this video, make sure to check out more on our channel and click the one on your screens right now.